in the Bakotech Polish distribution of Fortra solution, Fortra in total as a vendor. And today with me also is Mateusz Duda, who is our pre-sales engineer. For today presentation, we are going to show you how to protect your data before being loose or leaked. So just let me give me a few seconds to open my presentation. Okay, and I think we are good to go. My presentation would be at a glance just a few information about Fortra, what's Fortra, who is Fortra, etc. Rest of the presentation will be passed to Mateusz, to our pre-sales engineer, and he will present a demo of console of two products. So first of all, Fortra is a brand name, a new name of help systems. Help systems in past that was earlier before also known as Kinetic Company, and they got like massive portfolio of products that probably you might know pretty well. From administration side, nothing changed. So Fortra is American vendor based in Minneapolis city. And as you see at the map, they are covering via their products pretty large amount of the world, neither with their products or with their branch offices. At this moment, also, Fortra is taking care about the African continent. So if you would have in the future any chance, any possibility to have an opportunity in there, just feel free to contact with us. We will be glad to help you with this case. There's also a company named Center of Internet Security, so CIS, and CIS create that matrix about best cases scenarios, how to implement new technology into your environment. So the total environment would be well better protected, would be cyber secure, etc. So they create the matrix of 18 different technologies, and in this situation, 16 of them portfolio of Fortra is covering up. At this moment, and as far as we know, Fortra is also trying to develop data recovery, so the point number 11 would be fulfilled as well. And I think that the last one would be only matter of time, and probably everything might happen still in this year. So this is a big advantage for everyone, because thanks to that, we have a pretty big chances to go to one customer with, for example, 5, 6, or 7 different products. And the advantage is that it's still one vendor, not every single product, every single tool that customer is in need would be processed by other vendors. So automatically it's easier to also talk with our customers that Fortra is going to cover up all of their needs. And at this moment, in portfolio of Fortra, we got like those products that are splitted in those brackets that we have, for example, offensive security with Core Secure, Cobalt Strike, Outflank products, or vulnerability managements with Beyond or Frontline, etc. As you can see, there's pretty much of them. In future, if you would like to get known better any kind of product of Fortra, just feel free to write an email to us. Our data would be at the very end of today's meeting. So we can create a special session just for you to present you a product that you would be interested, you or your customers as well. So this is not a problem for us to create such a small webinar, small event, etc. And the last step at this moment from my side is that Fortra is going to unify their platforms because of this pretty lots of those matrices, lots of those brackets. Fortra is going to develop one big unified platform that is going to cover up all of those tools. So it would be also an extra advantage in future that IT administrators or cybersecurity administrators, etc., would have only one console to manage all of those products from one spot. From my part, that's it. So at this moment, we are going to present to you two products. First would be old name of Boldon James, so data classifier. Now we are trying to use the name that Fortra is doing, so Fortra data classifier, and later on a DLP system, which will be ClearSwift. So thank you for. Okay, Mateusz, if you mind, take the mic.
Okay, of course. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Damian, for the introduction. Hello, my name is Mateusz Duda, and I'm a pre-sales engineer for Fortra Solutions. Just give a second to share the screen. Okay, the screen should be visible right now. Okay, so first of all, we are starting off with the Boldon James, so the Fortra classifier. This is mainly the Windows solution, I would say. So everything that you may spot in here is Windows based. So for example, the administration console is based on the Windows server and on the IIS. There's no certificate right now, so I'm using HTTP connection, but it's easy to migrate on the IIS to the HTTPS connection. So it's not dependent on the product. It depends on the web server itself. Also, as I mentioned, it's based on the Active Directory quite a bit because both the administrators, so the users and roles, can be based on the domain properties. Yeah, so this is my domain account, bucket.lab/administrator, and I've got full access to the console. If I would show you the granularity of the options that we have here, you can fully customize what the administrators can see. So the labeling configuration. So in here it's a top part, policy management. So can you read, modify the policy themselves or delete them, for example, and so on. And also in policy management. So for example, can you control the rules that are inside, like the MD prod or commercial policies? Those policies I've created are in here on the left side. So I can create an administrator that do have access only, for example, to those one policy, so commercial policy. So he can administrate it only those and nothing else. He can't even like delete it. He will be able only to change the parameters of this policy. Okay, so when it comes to the Boldon James, the system is, as I mentioned, Windows-based, and it's agent. It's not agentless. It requires the agents. So the agents work on the computers, laptops, mobile phones, workstations, servers, and even on like the server version of things. For example, on the Exchange server. So it can work directly on the Exchange to classify the messages when they fly by the Exchange, for example. What do we have here? Generally, the idea is that the things that are on the bottom of the list can have access and can use things we defined above. So, for example, commercial policy can use selected library and selectors from those library, but selector library cannot use things from the policy. So this is the way we can use it. So commercial policy can use the selector library, and my policies do use them, of course. There are a couple of things we can configure in here. So besides the global settings of what applications, licenses, and so on, we can configure how we publish our configuration. So we can publish our configuration by a couple of methods. So we can publish it by the Active Directory. We have to install the AD schema extension for those. We can publish it by the file store. So, for example, some SMBs or C's or anything else that we can connect to by our agents. Or we can put it on the HTTP server. So there's another thing, there's a web configuration. We can put our configuration on a HTTPS server, and the agent can connect, can get the web page to get the web page content to get the classification policies. So there are a couple of methods we can use those, and each of those can be encrypted or not. It totally depends on our needs if we would like to encrypt it or not. Next off, we've got some libraries. The libraries are the things that define what can we use, what should be in the system, what users will see, what will be the rules, for example, and so on. So the first one is like the main one, the most important one is the selector library. So in here, I've got a selector library for the classification tags. So here is like my classification, like the main one, I would say. So classification is a public, business, secret, internal. I tried also some other alphabets in Cyrillic. I've got an alphabet and backpack. So this is my base classification, and also I've got my second step classification. So it's dział, so it's a department in English. This is in Polish, but it's department in English. And in here I've got InfoSec, HR, Finance, and Sales. And what I can do with this, I can create totally separate policies, rules, and so on, based on what classification is selected, both on the first level and both on the second level. So to show you how this can look like in the commercial policy, I've got 3 or 4 selector types added. So there's a classification, there's a department, encryption, and text field. Yeah, so this is a text field. I can fill it with it was the purpose for the hospital. So the patient's name can be fulfilled in the text field. So we know this document belongs to the Mr. X, for example. Okay, and what can I do? I can collect those selectors. So my main one is a classification. So you can see I'm using all the classification selectors from here. And if I would expand it, you've got public, business, secret, internal, and so on. And the test field is applied to the classification. So the test field will always be visible for me to fulfill. But in the specific scenarios, I can select which the secondary one classifications can apply to a specific primary selector. So for example, if I would mark my file as a secret, then as a second one as a department, I can select any of those basically. But when I will select a business classification as a primary, then I can set the department only to sales. Like you can see, the other ones are not available to the users. Same with the public. If I will select the public, then the department can be only HR, and other ones are not available to the users. So this is the very, very good and granular approach to what we can actually do to avoid some mistakes made by users. Yeah, so something can be InfoSec and public, for example. It makes no sense. So I'm just deleting it from the user's view, so they cannot do it like this. Okay. Also, as I said, the rules. The rules can be connected to a specific classification, but it can also, we've got some generic ones like always, for example. So I'm applying always those rules. So from here to here, those rules are applied always. When there is no label, so I didn't classify the file yet, I've got other 4 rules. So add marking tag when Patel will do that is an author, for example, and so on. And I can set up also on any label. And the last one, I can set up when there's a specific classification. So when it's public, I'm applying some other rules. When there's a business, I'm not applying any rule. But when it's a secret, I'm applying a tons of rules, same for internal. So I can granularly take a granular approach to what rules should be in here when it comes to the classifications. Also, I can use something like additional checks, for example, with the rules. So besides that, I'm using this only when the classification is backotech. Also, I'm like it is required. There's a prerequisite condition that it has to be a print event. So this rule will fire only if the classification is backotech and I'm using print event. So that's fired print event. If I will just save it, I will open it, save as, export or something like that, it will not fire. This rule will not be available. I'm printing, okay, this rule is active. So this is how we can take that granular approach to our rules. Also, the other policies can use a totally different set of selectors, for example. So in here I've got two selectors that do not have anything compared similar to the commercial policy. There are two separate classifications that are connected totally the other way. So as you can see, there's nothing similar between those two. So the policies can be totally different for example, different group of users in our company. If we'll have that need, it's totally okay. And the amount of policies, the amount of classifications, selectors, rules are unlimited. So just our needs define how much we will create, how much of the policies we will create, or how much rules we will create. As I mentioned, the conditions, there's also a condition library. So for example, when it comes to the print event, so this is the condition, so the prerequisite. If the document event fired, event process is printing, then this is my condition, and I can use it in any rules. Also, I can use the rules from, for example, Active Directory. So if Active Directory attribute of computer contains value tech, so this is my computer contains value tech because I'm in tech group, then I will apply other rules than, for example, for marketing or something like that. Also, when it comes to a single property of the file, so for example, when the document property author contains value mateuszduda@bakotech.com. This is my email, by the way. Then this rule will be fired only when Mateusz Duda is an author in an Office document in the author field. And if there will be mateuszduda.com in like a comments field, it will not be fired because this is not the author field. Yeah. So as I said, very granular. And when it comes to the system, I will show you it briefly how it looks. And we've got a couple of things in here. First of all, there's something called power classifier. So thanks to that, we can classify the files as many at once. Yeah, so you do not have to click for every file or set up a classification on each of those from the context menu, so from classify, classification, and so on. You can just select the label, or you sometimes you do not have to select the label, so you can set up this item has no classification, but you can use the rules to apply a metadata to it already. So it will be not visible as classified, but the metadata will be in it. So for example, when user opens it and just saves it, it will be applied the classification it should be, or even if someone is trying to send it, then it may be already blocked by the DLP system. And I can select my folder. So it's a power test, for example. It's in here on my desktop. So I can select what should I classify it, right? Able comes in secret. This is the main name and surname. So for example, Mateusz Duda. So this is my folder in the hospital. I would like to classify it as that, as secret. Yeah, it's okay. I can just apply the label and it will be applied to all the things in that folder. Next thing is classification from the right button. So I showed it to you. So I can select classify, classification, and you will see that this file is already classified. Yeah, so it was classified as public, HR, and Mateusz Duda in here. So this is the metadata that will be applied to that file. And if you would search for the metadata tags in the DLP, you will look for that string, for example. I can, of course, clear those classification, but I cannot save it, unfortunately, because there's a rule. So invalid label, There's some message in Polish. It's an even bad. This is bad message. I applied it probably by mistake. But generally, I cannot save the item without the classification that is marked. So the classification is forced in here. So I have to select at least this classification, and the other one is selected by default. This is optional. So this is the one I do not have to select. If I would reclassify it, you can see the icon on the file changes its colors, and the icon of the file shows what the classification actually is. Yeah, so the orange is secret, the red one is internal, the green one is public, and so on and so on. So the color means the classification on the file. Okay, if I will open up the file, I would also some rules that do not allow me to apply something else then. So for example, in here, if I would like to deselect the classification and I will save it, there are actually two rules that fires. So first rule tells me that the classification should be at least secret, so secret HR. But the second one does not allow me to save the file. So if I'm trying to save it, there's another file that needs to be that forces me to restore the original classification. So the original was internal, and I can only continue. Yeah, so you can see the file was saved here on the desktop. So it only allows me to continue when the classification is at least the same level as it was originally. If I will make it higher, then I will not be able to get back, for example, to the public. So someone, yeah, does not drop the classification from top secret internal to the public and sends it away. Yeah, so this is the mechanism that blocks these actions for the users. And if you would be interested, because I know this C region in here, the alphabet in the Cyrillic also works in Boldon James, in Word, for example. Yeah, so the headers, footers, and the classification and so on. So it totally works. This can be used. Okay, do not save. Next thing, if I will try to create an email. This is already the example, yeah. So this is one of the sent emails I have sent. So you can see there's marked wewnętrzne. This message is marked as internal, yeah, and so on. And if I will like to add a file to the email, it will also get the classification of the file. So you can see there's a nib and factura. It's zipped. Its classification is public, but I know that inside of that file there's another file, and the classification of that file that is zipped is higher than public. And so you will see what happens when I'm doing this. And as you can see, the message itself, the classification of message itself, is applied as a boldness, so it's applied as a third level, so it's a secret. So if I will drop the classification and try to send it, so for example, to me, and to me, so many domains of mine, testing, and I will send it. So you can see that first of all, the classification get back to the third level, so to the orange level, and the second one, I'm not allowed just to send that email to those recipients. So those and these domains are not my production domains, yeah, not my internal domains. So if it's something is a secret, then I cannot send it like outgoing or outside users. I have to remove them, then I can continue. But there's now no recipients to send it. So this then blocks me from the thing. So it's a little bit of DLP, but mainly the classification. Okay, this is it from the Bolton James. We've got a couple of minutes left, so I will show you the web gateway and email gateway from the Fortra. It's a ClearSwift original solution. I'm not sure if they will change the name or it will be somehow rebranded. But basically, those are to just prevent you from sending the files by the web, so by the HTTP, HTTPS, and FTP channels, and of course by the email channel. So there's a two gateways. That one is for the email. The second one is for the generic web traffic. And when it comes to the secure web gateway, basically the administration is the same. Yeah, so you can see the console is like a very similar. Yeah, so there's a policy, content rules, mail policy rules, policy references, and so on. Same in here, content rules. It's a web policy rules. Yeah, not mail policy rules. So those are the differentiate. Policy references the same. So basically the configuration administration is the same. Only the options that are specific to mail or web are the differentiates between those two consoles. So I will just show one. I will show web console, web gateway console. Um, Here it is my policy routes. So in case of the web, it's from IP address or user to a specific site, to a specific IP address, and so on. In the mail, it will be from email one to email two. Yeah, so from domain one to domain two, and so on. You can define how you would like to set it up. I've got some rules defined, and under each of those route, there are rules that are applied to those. So, for example, access to the weapons are illegal. I'm blocking those. Yeah, so I'm blocking access to the weapons, and there are 8 rules under those. I'm blocking access to the gambling, but there is in here that is allow user to continue browsing if they acknowledge the block page. So I'm basically blocking you, but there's this button. If you are really sure that this should be done, you can continue. And in other cases, I will just allow. Here is the rule, non-business related. It's a time-based, yeah. So there's a schedule applied to that route. So, for example, you can only use the non-business related from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Yeah, so you've got breaking those hours. So you've got like those 2 hours to go to the non-business related sites. This is your window to use your Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and so on and so on. Okay, and how it works? So basically, it works agentless. So we do not have to have any agent. We can we just configure proxy settings, and I'm going to the Polish weapon page, Militaria. So you can see there's a blocked category weapons. This communicate is in Polish actually, because you can totally configure it. So those communicates the users will receive can be totally configured. If I will go to the gambling site, I'm not sure if because we've got the presentation just before. Okay, it is blocking me. So here's in English, yeah. So totally different blocking site, gambling, gambling.com, restricted access, blah blah blah. And here is this button, yeah. So here is this button I was mentioning about. So you shouldn't do it, but there's this button. Okay, continue browsing, and it just after a few seconds it will allow you to that site. Also, there's a DLP solution, yeah. So it's not only the like web gateway to block you from the categories and so on, but you can also block some things like personal data, yeah. So for example, there's Polish vessels. So there are 5 Polish vessels in here. One is a fake one, so it's the control number is not right. It's some names, so figures, just to make the OCR life harder. And if I would like to upload it to some site like easy upload, of course, system will allow me to do that. Yeah. So someone who sends it think, okay, great, I'm sending this now to you. Download it. Here's the personal data of my company. Have a nice recruiting or something like that. I'm opening that file. And you see that all the personal data was erased. So there are like black boxes in here. The fake one was okay because it's a fake one, and the names are not like under my compliance. So the names also were also passed. Yeah. Also the figures because they doesn't matter. So this is the DLP how it can work on the gateway level. So user does not even know that something is blocked, something is redacted in this case. They will only see it when they come to the categories. Yeah. So if you've got a hard block, they will know it because they will see the message that something was blocked. Same case with the downloading files, viruses, uploading, and so on. If you're not allowing, you will get a block page that you are not allowed to do that. Okay, everything from my side. Damian, I'm giving the mic back to you.
Yep, thank you, Mateusz, for the very nice presentation. From my side, I will only share my screen just for a moment, so you can write down or type down or take a screenshot of our emails. So like I said at the very beginning, if you would have any questions about the functionalities or other products, not only Boldon James and not only ClearSwift as classifier and DLP system, feel free to write to us. We can arrange a meeting, a dedicated meeting for you to present a console, a product in a larger view. So it doesn't mind if it's going to take, for example, I don't know, 1 hour or 2 hours, etc. The same is for your customers. So if you see or hear that customer is in need of such a product, like Fortra has, just for a short review, one of those brackets or one of the product inside the bracket, just write an email to us and we can arrange a meeting, demo session, live presentation, event, whatever you would like to do. From my side, that's it. Thank you for your attendee and have a great rest of the day. And I hope that we are in touch. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.